What if taking care of yourself actually helped you show up better for everyone else? I'm Janet Jacks, Coach Janet J, and this is your next best step. This podcast is about real doable shifts that help you breathe easier and move forward one step at a time. If you've been carrying the weight of too much for too long and waiting for things to calm down before you start caring for yourself, this is your sign. The time is now. Let's begin where you are. You were made for more than just surviving. Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough airtime during the holidays. Loneliness. Not the I'm alone kind of loneliness, though that's real too. I'm talking about that feeling of being disconnected even when you are surrounded by people. When the holiday gatherings feel hollow, when your family is right there, yet you still feel like you're on an island. This time of year is supposed to be about connection and joy. Yet, for so many women that I work with, it brings up feelings of isolation that are almost unbearable. You're not imagining it. A recent AARP study found that 61% of adults report feeling lonely during the holidays, despite being surrounded by people. If you're feeling lonely during the holidays, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're not being ungrateful. You're not failing at Christmas. You are human, and you are experiencing something incredibly common that doesn't get talked about enough. There's an ancient truth that speaks directly to this experience. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." It doesn't say the Lord fixes the brokenhearted so they are never lonely again. It says He is close to them. He doesn't shame you for feeling lonely. He draws near. Even thousands of years ago, the psalmist understood that heartbreak and loneliness are part of the human experience, and that God's response isn't to judge us for it, but to move toward us in it. That is going to shape everything we talk about today, because real connection, the kind that actually fills the lonely places, starts with understanding that your loneliness does not disqualify you from love. It actually invites it. Let's talk about it. First, let's acknowledge that loneliness has many faces during the holidays. Maybe you're a solo woman navigating the holidays without a partner, and every gathering feels like a reminder of what you don't have. Maybe you're a widow, and this is your first or fifth Christmas without your spouse. And the empty chair at the table feels like a canyon. Maybe you're estranged from family members, and the season of family togetherness just highlights what's broken. Maybe you're misunderstood, surrounded by people who love you, who really don't get you, and you're performing happiness while feeling completely alone inside. Maybe you're geographically isolated. Your people are scattered across the country or globe, and video calls just aren't the same. Here's what I want you to hear. Your version of loneliness is valid. You don't have to compare your pain to anyone else's to determine if it's bad enough to matter. If you feel lonely, that's real, and it deserves attention. Here's the truth, and it's backed by research from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships. Loneliness during the holidays is often less about being alone and more about unmet expectations for connection. And specifically, it's about the quality, not the quantity. There is a difference between being alone, which is a circumstance, and feeling lonely, which is an emotional experience. You can be alone and deeply content. You can be surrounded by people and desperately lonely. The holidays magnify this because they come with such loaded expectations. You expected to feel close to your family during dinner, but everyone was on their phones. You expected quality time with your spouse, but they're stressed about money and withdrawn. You expected your adult children to be excited about traditions, but they seemed obligated rather than enthusiastic. The loneliness isn't just about physical presence. It's about emotional and spiritual connection. And that's much harder to navigate. Let me share what I see happening with a lot of the women I coach. They're in a season of life where their roles are shifting. Families grow and change with marriages, divorces, births, deaths. Their marriages may have become more functional, and friendships may have gotten more surface level because everyone is so busy. And let's talk about friends for a minute, because this is where holiday loneliness can sting in unexpected ways. Maybe you've always been the one to organize gatherings, and this year you're tired of being the social coordinator. You're waiting for someone else to reach out, to make the plans, to show they care enough to initiate, but your phone stays quiet. It starts to feel like abandonment. Or friends cancel on you again. And your brain goes straight to, they don't want to be around me. I'm always an afterthought. But here's what's probably true. They're overwhelmed too. They're trying to figure out their own holiday chaos, the family obligations, the financial stress, and the emotional exhaustion. It's not that they don't care. It's that they are barely keeping their own heads above water. Sometimes loneliness happens because we're waiting for someone else to make the first move. And then the holidays come, and all of that gets highlighted in Technicolor. The traditions that used to feel connecting now feel like going through the motions. The gatherings that used to fill your cup now drain it. The season that used to bring joy now brings this ache that you can't quite name. So what do we do about it? Here's your next best step, and it's grounded in the truth from Psalm 34, that God draws near to the brokenhearted. The first step is to get honest about what kind of connection you're honestly craving. Not what you think you should want, not what worked 10 years ago. What do you need right now to feel less lonely? Maybe it's not about seeing more people. Maybe it's about seeing fewer people, but having deeper conversations. Maybe it's not about big family gatherings, but about one-on-one coffee dates where you can really talk. Maybe it's not about recreating old traditions, but creating new ones that fit who you are now. Here's a practical exercise. Take 5 minutes and write down the answers to these questions. When do I feel most connected to others? What's happening in those moments? When do I feel the most disconnected? And what is different about those situations? What made me feel connected 5 or 10 years ago that just doesn't work anymore? Your answers will tell you something important about what's shifted and what you actually need. For some women, the answer is surprisingly simple. One of my clients realized she felt most connected during quiet morning coffees with her sister, but most lonely at big family dinners where everyone talked over each other. Her solution? She started hosting small morning brunches instead of big evening gatherings. Same family, different format, completely different result. Another client realized she felt lonely because she was always serving and never being served. Everyone took from her cup, but no one asked what she needed. Her next best step was actually asking for what she needed. I need someone to ask me about my day. I need to laugh together, not just coordinate. I need a hug that lasts for more than 2 seconds. Sometimes loneliness persists because we are waiting for people to read our minds instead of telling them what we need. Now, here's something fascinating from neuroscience research. Studies show that when we experience genuine emotional connection, even just 10 to 15 minutes of meaningful conversation, our brains release oxytocin, which reduces stress hormones and actually makes us feel physically safer. Quality connection isn't just a nice idea. It is a biological need. So, when you identify what kind of connection you're craving, you're addressing a legitimate human need that affects your mental, emotional, and physical health. And here's where the truth from Psalm 34 becomes really powerful. If you're feeling disconnected from people, it might be a perfect time to lean into connection with God. Not as a consolation prize, but as the primary relationship that actually fills the deepest places. That doesn't mean we don't need people. We absolutely do. God created us for community, and the research backs this up. It does mean that our primary source of connection needs to be Him. And then human connection becomes a beautiful addition rather than a desperate need. Here's something else that helps. Redefine what connection looks like this season. Maybe connection isn't the big happy gathering. Maybe it's a text exchange with a friend who really gets you. A walk where you actually pray out loud and feel God's presence. A virtual coffee date with someone who lives far away. 15 minutes of eye contact and real conversation with your spouse. Volunteering somewhere that reminds you that you matter to others. Connection doesn't have to look like a Hallmark movie with snowball fights and someone suffering from amnesia to be real. Now, if you're feeling lonely because you've experienced loss, whether that's death, divorce, estrangement, or an empty nest, that grief is real and valid. Don't let anyone rush you through it with platitudes about being grateful or focusing on the positive. We'll talk about that more next week. Sometimes the most connecting thing you can do is find one person who will let you be honest about the hard without trying to fix it. That's real connection, and it's exactly what God does for us. He doesn't shame us for our loneliness. He comes close. So here's your connection for this week. And I want you to notice I'm asking you to take action, not wait for someone else to rescue you from loneliness. Identify one specific action you can take to create the kind of connection you are actually craving. Not what you think you should do, what would genuinely help you feel less lonely. Take a look at the list you made earlier. And here's the key. Don't wait for someone else to make it happen. You make the first move. Maybe that's you text 3 friends and ask for real conversation, not small talk. Don't wait for them to reach out. You reach out. You schedule one-on-one time with each family member instead of only group gatherings. You put it on the calendar. You join a group or class where people share your interest. Most importantly, you show up. You initiate the conversation with your spouse about feeling disconnected and ask to carve out time for just the 2 of you. You reach out to someone who might be lonely too and invite them to coffee or a walk. I know it feels vulnerable. I know you might be thinking, but I'm always the one who initiates. Why do I have to do it again? Because waiting for someone else to fix your loneliness keeps you stuck. Taking action, even small action, gives you back some control. You're not being needy by reaching out. You're being brave. You're being honest. And you're modeling the kind of connection you want to receive. Remember episode 9 when we talked about comparison? Loneliness is comparison's cousin. When we're lonely, we assume everyone else has it figured out and we're the only ones struggling. What if the person you're waiting to reach out to you is also lonely, also waiting, also afraid to make the first move? What if your text is the answer to someone else's prayer for connection? And if you're in a season where human connection just isn't accessible right now, lean into connection with God. Spend 5 minutes in His presence without asking for anything, just being with Him. Maybe stand in front of a mirror. Yes, I'm serious. Look yourself in the eyes and say out loud, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He is close to me." This might feel awkward at first. That's okay. Mirror gazing with compassionate presence is actually a powerful therapeutic technique. When you speak truth to yourself while looking in your own eyes, you are practicing self-compassion in a way that your brain processes differently than just thinking the words. Do this one day this week. Look in the mirror and remind yourself that God is close to you in your loneliness. Not distant, not disappointed, close. You might be surprised how much that fills the lonely places. You don't have to do the holidays the way you've always done them. You don't have to pretend you're not lonely. You don't have to fix it all in one day. You also don't have to wait and hope someone else will notice your loneliness and fix it for you. Take your next best step toward the kind of connection that actually matters to you. And let that first step be the one you initiate. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. And sometimes He uses your brave text message or phone call to bring that closeness to someone else too. All right, you've got your next step. Small, doable, and real. If this inspired you, make sure to grab your free 5-minute daily reset at yournextbeststep.com. It's my gift to help you pause the chaos and reconnect with what matters most. Be sure to subscribe. And if someone came to mind while you listened, please share this with them. Remember, you are seen, you are known, and you matter. Be kind to yourself along the way. You are making real change, one step at a time.